Ever so long. That's very nice of you. And not like, why am I back in the same room? That's very sweet. Don't worry, no pop quizzes. No. Oh, yeah? Uh-huh. Have you played? Do you play before? Have you played guitar before? Yeah, a lot? How fun. Never enough. Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, you should enjoy. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to each of you this Shabbat evening. Tonight we have the chance to pray, to sing, to enjoy time together, and simply to relax after the week, whether the week itself was relaxing, whether it was full of stress, no matter how busy you were or weren't. Here we get to settle into this time to relax and to bring in the relaxation of Shabbat. So as we bring in Shabbat, we will kindle our Shabbat candles, and I'd love to invite Norm and Ann Spector to help us kindle our candles this evening. We also have a table with tea lights over here, so anyone who wishes to kindle Shabbat candles, please come on over to the tea light table to do so. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat shalom. As our candlelighters take their seats, I will invite you to turn to those around you, wish each other a Shabbat shalom. If you see someone you don't yet know, as you do so, please introduce yourselves. And on our handouts, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. Malachei Hasharet. Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Hamlachim. HaKadosh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi-melech malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch Hu. Shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem, malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're skipping to Seitchem L'Shalom. Seitchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On page 1 of our prayer books, page 1, Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh Av HaRachaman, Yedid Nefesh Av HaRachaman, Meshochav Decha El Retzonecha, Meshochav Decha Ya la 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 El Retzonecha Ya On the following page, Psalm 95, Lechuna Ranana. There are a couple tunes I've selected for this evening's service, a couple melodies that with Cantor on Sabbatical, I am not sure how familiar they are. So have no fear, Cantor is back next week. And I know we can sing together regardless. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna. Oh, you know what? That makes me happy. Lechuna Ranana, Ladonai. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Ladonai. Naria, Naria, Letsur Yishenu, Mekan Mafanav Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letsur Yishenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Ladonai. 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 Naria, Naria, Letsur Yishenu, Mekan Mafanav Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letsur Yishenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Ladonai. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Ladonai. So we will continue now together on page 10. Page 10 with Lecha Dodi, after which we will have one more song of the introductory Kabbalat Shabbat service. Beginning on page 10, we find the words of Lecha Dodi. We are going to sing together the verses with asterisks. And on the final verse, verse 9, we will rise as we are able and face the entrance to symbolically welcome the presence of Shabbat. Ya la 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 la, Lecha Dodi. Ya la 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 la, Likrat Kala. Ya la 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 la, Penei Shabbat, Penei Shabbat Nekabe. Ya la 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 la, Lecha Dodi. Ya la 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 la, Likrat Kala. Ya la 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 la, Penei Shabbat, Penei Shabbat Nekabe. Zachor v'rivur echad v'ishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad v'shmo echad v'shemo tiferet v'lichila. Likrat Shabbat lechuven elcha ki mekor habracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maseh b'machshvat tefila. We can be seated together. On page 13. On page 13, we will continue with Psalm 92. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, Tov Lehodot L'Adonai, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon. So if this one is less familiar, we're going to repeat that one time together, same thing, and just La is always an acceptable syllable. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, Tov Lehodot L'Adonai, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon. One more time. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, Tov Lehodot L'Adonai, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon. Lehagid Baboker Chastecha, Ve'emunatcha Baleilot, Alei Asur Malei Navel, Alei Higayon Bechinor. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, Tov Lehodot L'Adonai, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, Tov Lehodot L'Adonai, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon. Ki simachtani Adonai b'folecha, B'maseh yadecha ranein, ha'magadlu ma'asech Adonai, mehod amku machshevotecha. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, Tov Lehodot להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. We will continue together now with Chatzi Kaddish on page 15. On page 15, and I invite you to rise as you are able. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba, v'yamad yivrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael, Bakala, bakala, uvismahan karib, vimeru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach, lehala mula mehamaya, yibarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitalev, v'yithalal, Shemei Dekudasha Brichu Leila Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata Damihiran B'Yalma V'Meru Amen. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. And we continue individually. Baruch Adonai. Tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim. Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And we can be seated, continuing on page 18. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'ish'arecha. Lema antizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hiatem kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. On the top of page 21, Micha Mocha. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Micha Mocha bai lima donai. Mika Mocha nadar bakodash. Nora tehilo do sefela. Nora tehilo do sefela. Malachut Hara Uvanecha Bokei Yam Livnei Moshe Miriam Zeili Anu Ve'amru Zeili Anu Ve'amru Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. V'nemar kifad Adonai Yaakov u'galo miad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. Beginning on the bottom of page 21 and continuing on the bottom of page 22, Adonai, enable us to lie down and rest this night and raise us up to life renewed, spreading over us a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chayim. Ufros aleinu Sukkot shlomecha, ufros aleinu Sukkot shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 On the top of page 23, we will continue with a song for Shabbat, Vishamru, and after that we will continue with our own personal silent prayer, the silent Amidah. I will invite you to rise as you are able. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam berit olam Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam berit olam Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Od hi le'olam Od hi le'olam Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam berit olam Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim et haaretz vishamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat lasot et hashabat Vidoro Tambarit Olam. Ubayom Ashvi, Shabbat Vainafash, Shabbat Vainafash, Shabbat Vainafash, Vishamru, Mene Israel, Et HaShabbat, Lasot Et HaShabbat, Vidoro Tambarit Olam, Vishamru, Mene Israel, Et HaShabbat, Lasot Et HaShabbat, Vidoro Tambarit Olam. Yehiyu leratzon imrefi, imrefi, vehyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri. At this time in our service, we have the opportunity to call into our hearts all those who are in need of healing. Healing of mind, of body, of spirit. We each have people in our lives, friends or family members in need of healing. And there may be some among us this evening who are in need of that same healing. If you would like to share the name of someone for whom you are praying, if you're joining us streaming online, please share those names in the chat or in the comments so we can include them in our own prayers. And here present in the room, I invite you to share those names as I look around the room. The Mishabera can be found in our prayer books on the top of page 34. Page 34. Mishabera avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishabera imotenu mekor habracha vahavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Our Torah portion this week finds the Israelites in a pretty difficult moment. In last week's Torah portion, we heard about the scouts who were sent into the Promised Land to do reconnaissance, essentially, to see what kind of fruit there was, what were the people like, what were the cities like, and after the majority of the scouts came back frightened of what lay ahead, the Israelites joined them in this hubbub of fear, refusing to go in and try to conquer and enter the Promised Land. And God condemned them to the entire generation to wander in the wilderness, and only the children, or those who had not yet been born when the Israelites went out of Egypt, would enter the Promised Land. You can only imagine how the Israelites are reeling from this news. And there we find them in this week's Torah portion. Far from peace and wholeness, the Israelites are experiencing what we would probably call trauma today, after the trauma they already experienced in Egypt. And in this moment, a rebellious faction led by a Levite, Korach, rises up against Moses. And this is one of the few Torah portions named after individuals. Korach is one of those. Bonus mitzvah points after services if you tell me what the other ones are. Chayei Sarah is, okay, actually, if we're counting Chayei Sarah, but we're counting 3. Okay. And your clue is the other 2 are not Israelites, who they're named after. Okay, I digress. So a rebellious faction led by Korach rises up against Moses and says to Moses, Korach says to Moses, Rav lecha. It almost means it's too much for you. You've taken on too much in your leadership. You've raised yourself up above the Israelites. Aren't we all God's children too? Aren't we all holy as well? And Korah does this publicly in front of the entire community, having gathered a faction with him, grumbling against Moses and Aaron. And it's striking that to Moses, known for his humility, his great humility, Korach says, who are you to raise yourself up, essentially in this egotistical way with such hubris? If you read between the lines, you're hoarding all the power, he says, imagining Moses as a power-hungry leader, cutting other leaders out of the picture. In Korach's own upset, in his own desire for power, in his own discontent with his fate and the fate of an entire generation wandering in the wilderness, because of his own hurt, I believe, he was blinded to the fullness of who Moses was and the kind of leader Moses had become. Was Moses perfect? No, far from it. He was human to the core. And through Torah, we see Moses develop from a passionate young man to a very reluctant leader, to a leader who takes feedback and advice and learns to delegate, loyal to his people no matter what their actions, and acting with incredible devotion to God and to the Israelites. But Korach only saw Moses' power and felt his own desires. And he stood up and reacted in anger and with affront and callous words, words that broke ties and injured relationships, and ultimately, through God's retribution, cost Korach and his followers their lives as the ground opened up and swallowed them. While, thankfully, the ground is not known for opening up and swallowing people in retribution in our world, I think that each of us might be able in certain moments to identify with Korach, particularly in moments of difficulty or hurt or upset or, God forbid, trauma. Our own vision can become clouded when our ego flares and we let it get in the way of healthy communication and relationships. Likely in each of our lives, we can think of moments when in our interactions, whether we are the ones saying harsh words or whether we are the recipient of them, I bet each of us could think of moments when we have either said things that are unfair or one-sided or harsh, or perhaps shared criticism but in the wrong way, or been the recipient of that kind of action or criticism. As I reflected on the Torah portion this week, what struck me is that Korach's message is not necessarily incorrect or wrong. Perhaps the underpinning that seems to be there about claiming Moses has an oversized ego and is power hungry, but the critique of perhaps Moses and Aaron are acting too much individually, too much in a top-down manner when they could be sharing power and authority. Perhaps Korach's message is not 100% wrong. Perhaps there's something valid in that critique. Moses, at least previously, had a history of taking on too much. And it was his father-in-law, Jethro, who had to advise him not to sit and make all the decisions all day long, but to set up a system of judges who he could empower. He has a history of needing that push to delegate and to share authority. There could have been a place for sharing concern that might have had a positive outcome. But the way Korach went about it, I believe, has meaningful lessons to teach us when we might want to enter into a difficult conversation. 3 key mistakes that Korach made that we in our own lives can avoid. The first mistake that Korach made was that he kvetched behind Moses and Aaron's back. He talked to his compatriots, he got people riled up, he activated the rumor mill and got his friends going, and then publicly confronted Moses and Aaron in front of the Israelites in an aggressive way, most importantly, publicly. There's a phrase that a mentor of mine used frequently that I think of often, and that is, criticize privately, praise publicly. Criticize privately, praise publicly. Imagine if Korach had taken that method to heart. Perhaps I imagine Korach could have pulled Moses aside or requested time for a conversation and expressed concern. Were they taking on too much? Could they share power and authority in a more effective way? How could Korach help? How could Korach occupy a position of greater leadership and use his desire for leadership and perhaps his potential? Imagine if privately rather than publicly he had approached Moses in that way. Number 2, Korach felt, it seems, that he already knew the whole story, that he had Moses down. He knew why Moses was acting in this way, and the story was that he was power hungry, hoarding power, and thought he was more special than the rest of the Israelites. He had his narrative firm, set in his head, and he wasn't able to approach the conversation with curiosity. He went in guns blazing, thinking that he knew what was going on. He didn't have the perspective of Moses and Aaron as reluctant leaders doing an incredibly difficult job with incredibly opinionated people, walking through an incredibly difficult time. He did what we so often have the tendency to do in our own relationships, which is to tell ourselves a specific story of why the other person is acting in a particular way. Why are they behaving that way? And we go in already thinking we know the whole truth. Instead, imagine had Korach approached Moses with curiosity, asking questions, reflecting on what he was seeing, and asking for help understanding. What a chance that might have been for Moses to validate Korach's role of esteem among the Levites in the special group of Kohathites, with an important role to play, and perhaps for Korach to share constructive criticism that could have improved Moses and Aaron's leadership. And finally, number 3, it seems that Korach thought that power was a zero-sum game, that Moses and Aaron leading meant that other people necessarily had less power and authority, that they were excluding others or trying to make others less powerful. Korach didn't understand that he could have supported and joined together. He didn't understand that it's not pie, as some people might say, right? My slice doesn't decrease your slice. It doesn't diminish our position. So often our lives, especially in times of challenge, especially when we're going through a difficult time and our buttons are pushed, it's all too easy to fall into negative patterns of communication as well. Sometimes particularly with those we spend a lot of time with, particularly with those close to us. Speaking about someone to others rather than to that person, or lobbing a barbed comment at a coworker or community member or friend or family member rather than having an honest, private conversation. How easy it is to have our own narrative of why someone is behaving in a certain way, letting that rile us up in anger, and losing sight of the fact that there might be another side to the story. Maybe there is something I don't yet know. Maybe, perhaps I could be wrong. Maybe we could both be right. And how very easy it is to let our egos flare, feeling that another person's power is a threat to our own standing or authority. I believe that if we are able to take the lessons of this week's Torah portion to heart, remembering to speak to others, not about them, to praise publicly and criticize privately, to approach difficult conversations with curiosity, and to look for ways we can join together in power for the good. If we're able to do these things, we could not only improve our relationships, not only strengthen the bonds of community, whether that's our own Temple High community or in workplaces, other communities, but I truly believe that it can change the world the more people who are able to communicate in a healthy way, even in difficult moments. May we be catalysts of healthy communications within our own smaller circles, our wider circles, and may we live to see the ripple effects of those actions in the world. Keni Hiratzon, may this be God's will. Amen. Thank you. It is my great pleasure now to invite forward Alan Zaitchik, representing our board of directors, to share some words of greeting and announcements. I'll take this one so you're not too far away.
Great. Thank you, Rabbi, for your wisdom. Hello, everybody. Alan Zaitchik. I'm honored to represent the board of directors. And hello to everybody here. I'm glad you're here. And hello to everybody on the live stream. I'm glad you're with us tonight. So one of the songs the rabbi didn't sing is one of my favorites. Mayim, Mayim, Mayim. Right?
Hey,
Hey, Mayim. Exactly. So we love Mayim. We live in the desert. Everyone loves Mayim. Not everyone has it. So one of the programs that Temple Chai has been working on, along with Arizona Jews for Justice, is the Mayim Project, or Project Mayim. I guess you have to work on the Hebrew versus English order on the words. Exactly. And so we are, between now and July 19th, we are gathering water bottles and also donations towards water bottles. We're collecting them here at the temple. There's a link in the little booklet there and also in the e-chai. And we encourage you to donate to support this very important project. And the delivery of that water will be done on July 20th. And so we are heading into that hot season. People need water. So thank you in advance if you can help with that very, very important project. Yes, please.
If everyone here brought a bottle of water for the next couple of Shabbats, who's got 50 people there? We have 50 bottles, one thing one and a couple of us. We have 150.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Thank you. We're together as a community. Isn't that great? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I have a water bottle in the car, but I don't bring it in. So the second announcement I would like to make tonight is that it is enrollment time for our religious school and our ECC. We have, I'm told with the ECC, some classrooms already have a waiting list, but others do not. But they are going fast. They are doing tours almost every day. So if you have a little one or know someone who has a little one, now is the time. That's what Rafiki says. You know, it is now or whatever. It is time. So it is time to do that. So it's time for a Rafiki moment on the schools. And then finally, if you're looking for new friends, new activities, new things to do, may I invite you to try out one of our Chai circles. These are new clubs, circles, whatever the word is. They're not the same, not the old Chavrim. It's not a small group of people. This is something open to everybody. With different interests. We have things as diverse as hiking, doing mitzvot, spending Shabbat together, discussing contemporary Israeli politics, wine tasting. All sorts of things are available. There are currently 14 circles. There are more being formed. I invite you to check them out, try them. You may find that there's something you love. You may find that there's something that you do it a few times, say, yeah, this is for me. That's all fine. That's all good. So you can learn about it in the Ishmuz, or the Ichai rather. Ishmuz is a different synagogue, Ishmuz. I get them all from every congregation here. And believe me, it's a lot of email. And but check it out. Talk to Chi if you have questions. And then finally, there are several of us here from the board, some new board members. Some people are maybe on the board for a little bit longer. I invite you after the service to come talk to me, talk to anyone wearing one of these cute little board badges. And, you know, I'm not going to embarrass everybody, but you can see little badges. And, you know, if you're, just come say hi, especially if you're new here, you're visiting, you're checking us out. I'd love to talk to you. And on that note, Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Khan.
Thank you.
We will continue now together with the concluding prayers of our service. Alenu can be found on page 38, and I invite you to rise as you are able. Alenu l'shabeach ladon hakol latek gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu kagoye haratzot velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chalkenu kahem vegor alenu kechol hamonam vanachnu karim Umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihya Adonai Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo Echad. You may be seated. We think now of all those we have loved and lost, friends, family, members of our congregational community for whom we are in a period of mourning or observing a yahrzeit. If you are joining us streaming online, I invite you to share the names of those you are remembering in the chat or in the comments. We can hold them close in our hearts with our own. We remember those who died in recent days. Maynard Posner, Nanette Solomon, and Norman Weiser. If you are here remembering a loved one, whether in a period of mourning, observing a yahrzeit, or simply remembering someone at this time, I invite you to rise as you're able to share the names of those you are remembering. Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for a blessing. As together we turn to page 40, and rise as one community for the Mourners Kaddish. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, b'yama divrach lirtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, Bagala uvizman kari vimru amen. Yehe shmei rabba mevarach le'alam lamei amaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar v'yit ale v'yit halal shemei d'kudasha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran biama vimru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael vimru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael vimru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, as again we say, amen. We will remain standing now as we continue with the celebration of Shabbat with Kiddush. And I would love to invite forward Tony and Milan to help lead us in Kiddush this evening. It can be found on page 41. Page 41. We can all do it together.
Okay.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho v'ahavahu ratzon himchilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom tehila lamikra'e kodesh. Zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. Ki banu harta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim. V'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim. Adonai oz lamo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May God give strength to all people, and may God bless all people with peace. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.